was I was sitting in my car and like, you know, the guy's locking up, like, you know, like I was the last guy to the gym. Like he's locking up. Like,
yeah.
I'm watching him close
the lights
up
out while you finished.
And
you know?
Yeah. And I remember sitting there with like this massive shoulder pump, like massive. And it was like minus 30 out, like death, freezing, like brutal Canadian cold out. And I remember thinking, nobody's going to beat me.
Love that.
It's not possible. Like I had a screwed up day and I just solved every problem immediately and just moved on. No hesitation. Drop. Like, oh, okay, gone, move. Like there's one goal. Nothing else matters. Everything else is just details that can sort out later. Remember, everybody, to drop your questions in the comment section below right here, and then we'll make sure we get to them as soon as possible. Hey, everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Of course, myself, Big Ron Partlow, Dusty Hanshaw, Scott McNally. We're happy to be here, guys. Remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
ring the bell.
Good job.
You see, what I've done with all the bell ringing here is I'm strategically teaching Dusty to become a drummer slowly without him really knowing
a left
it.
and a right today.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we might evolve it into 2 bells. He has to hit 2 bells or something. I'll take it.
It has to be 3. It can never be 2, remember?
Right.
Odd
Okay,
number
there you go.
bells.
Odd numbers. Okay. Got the Mutant Built Tough shirt on.
I like that
kind of,
one.
kind of like the, Built Ford Tough, kind of ripped Ford off. Thought that was funny.
It was good.
Remember to go on IamMutant.com and you can get all your subs. You get your ISO, you can get your pre-workout, the all-in, you can get the gear. Get on the gear.
A lot of gear. You need the gear.
Yes. I'm drinking iced tea gear right now. That's my thing. Remember Dusty 20 or Big Ron 20. Those are the 2 codes you can use. And Scott gets completely left out of this one. However,
It's all right.
However, there's a Think Big Bodybuilding Network Patreon that
Yes.
you should go to. And for the price of a cup of coffee, isn't that what they say?
Something like
for
that.
the price of a cup of coffee, you can
feed
keep
a
Scott from being
podcaster.
homeless.
Yeah, you can feed a podcaster.
We should have Sarah McLaughlin do the voiceover for that part.
Yeah.
You know?
And I'll just feel like
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's perfect. It's perfect.
so hungry.
So-
so hungry, guys.
Yeah, get pictures of Scott dieted right down, like shredded, and just use and just zoom in on his face.
Yeah.
Yeah,
know?
just the face.
Yeah.
Don't let him see the
Just the
muscle
face.
because that'll mess it all up.
Man.
Okay. Yes. So that's all what I call the administrative bullshit
It's good.
that we have to
Oh,
do right
we
off the bat.
got our last show demonetized, Ron. Oh, I'll make a note. I'll edit that one. It's right at the gate. We're out to a start.
Oh, boy.
I have no idea why they would demonetize us. We're so minor.
You know what it is?
so
Is
minor.
that we
And
go
no one
for a
cares.
long stretch and you're really good, and then it's one follow. I think they're like, well, he did like 7 in a row, so it's a little rough there.
It seems like they're fully automatic. F-bomb.
That's
And
it.
that's
Yeah.
what
Wait,
triggers
wait.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Right, single
Can we
shot F-bombs are okay,
possibly-
but if you hold the trigger down
Yeah.
and spray the F-bombs,
You gotta have a special license
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
yeah, the
What
ATF
if
gets
we-
involved.
What if I jump in and say that you have Tourette's? Then they can't.
Oh, I like
They
that.
can't.
I'm a victim. I'm a victim.
Exactly. You're being held back by the man.
I like
I'm a
that.
marginalized group that is being judged
Yeah.
unfairly through the scope of able-verbed people who don't
Yes,
spontaneously
exactly.
swear.
It's hate.
Yeah.
Hate crime.
Okay.
Hate crime.
Hate crime. Hate crime. What are we starting with today? Oh, yeah. We had a lot of good questions, and we had the Eddie Cohen interview, which was awesome. But we were going to talk about something we get asked a lot about. Do you have the genetics to be a pro bodybuilder? And how do you know that? And when did you know that? That sort of thing. Dusty and I get that question a lot. You've heard that question a ton over the years with all your podcasting.
Oh yeah.
What do you guys think?
It's a question you can't help but ask yourself if you get involved in bodybuilding. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So So I'm starting to feel like a politician before we even start, because my first issue with the question is, if you love bodybuilding, you will find out by chasing bodybuilding, by just going for it. Like this question does not bother me. It only bothers me when I feel like the question is being asked so they can decide if they want to get started in the journey.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a hang up for me. Like you got to go after this and go all in, and then watch your body evolve and kind of see where you're at, because that's the issue I have. It's a very regular thing where they're like, hold up, before we get started, and I actually put an ounce of effort into this, can you make sure and let me know that I'm going to be financially set through bodybuilding because my physique will be so good?
Right.
Yeah. And when you bring that up, Dusty, it makes me think of how, like, you know, nothing about being a pro ever occurred to me until I was like 4 years into training. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I didn't like start training to be a pro bodybuilder. I just loved the process. You know, I remember thinking like, oh, you know, okay, I'm going to do a contest and just see how fun it is, you know, see how I do.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember thinking like that. It wasn't like pro card stuff. I know that we sound like grumpy old men to some people when we talk about like the chasing the pro card thing now. But we have to cut everybody a little bit of slack, because they're constantly being bombarded with talk of turning pro. You know, just think of what social media has done to the bodybuilding generation now. It's all about, like, you know, there's so much stuff about chasing pro cards. They're just bombarded with it. It's kind of not their fault in a way, you know, like back when I started training, like, you know, there was one pro a year, right? Like one Canadian a year. Yeah. So it wasn't like it was the reason
lottery.
people trained. Yeah, it's like a lottery. Right. Like the gyms are just full of hardcore guys benching 3 plates and squatting 4 plates and selling sustenance in the locker room and all the good stuff that we love. And it was just for the love of the game and the fascination with what they were doing with their body. Yeah, it was just, I don't know, it was just love of bodybuilding. It wasn't just like this crazy pro card chase, you know?
Yeah.
So it's definitely different how it's worded now and how everyone talks about it, but yeah, like Dusty said, you got to want to compete anyways. Like, you know, I mean, you got to love it.
I'll tell you what I've seen as a coach. I know how I respond. Obviously, I saw myself dieted. I dieted myself. I tried to grow myself long before I ever attempted to help anybody else. And then I could see, so that gave me kind of a foundation. I could see like, oh, this guy is really struggling. He has a much harder time getting in shape than I do, and it takes him a lot more work. Or I could see this guy, you know, grows muscle a lot more easily than I did. He doesn't need to eat as much food, and damn, he's strong. And he's one of those guys that's always been strong. And then I meet some people that it's like, once in a while, no matter what I do, no matter how hard I diet them, they didn't go flat. No matter what I do in the off season, I can feed them and feed them and feed them, and they don't get overly fat. In fact, I'll tell you what, as much as like, I feel like this program is super motivational for people who want to get as big as possible. But there's been kind of like this is a great conversation to have, because I've had so many conversations with even people that I work with, and I've had to tell them like, listen, we can't do what Ron was able to do. We can't do what Dusty was able to do. Like some people, they can't necessarily just keep shoveling food and growing and put on all that weight and then also be able to diet it down. It's like one guy I'm thinking of in particular, he has like a lot of loose skin. He was overweight before, and he's somebody that's like, he's got to just keep it tight all year round, and he can grow, but he can't go from like 240 to 300 and then bring it back down again. You know what I mean? And that's a genetic thing. I guess I've seen how I respond. And then once in a while I've met somebody and worked with somebody who's got just amazing genetics, and it's a different ball game. And that really gave me a lot of perspective on what good genetics are. So we have people on the podcast that are like, hey, I don't run a lot of gear. And we get so much feedback from the audience. It's like, this guy's lying. He's full of it. Well, he had to use a lot more than that to grow. He might not be on much. All of these reasons why that's not true. But I've seen it firsthand. I've worked with people firsthand who have turned pro without using trend. People who've been literally under a gram of gear, and they're out muscling people on stage that are taking way, way more than that. It's so hard to get that through your head. Maybe I wouldn't even believed it have I not had the experience I've had with so many clients, you know?
I vividly remember when I first started training, like 14, 15, 16 years old. I remember that gym. I can see the room, and I can see this one guy that used to train there, and his name was Marty. And he was there every single day. He was like furniture at that gym. He was in there squatting and deadlifting and benching, and he had the boat neck shirt on, and he had his sweats, rolled up, and he wore the weight belt, and he trained hard, man. Marty was always red faced, veins in his forehead, just pulling on stuff, loading up the leg press, training really, really hard. He probably trained too heavy, but his form wasn't terrible. It was just like kind of risky, and he just trained he trained really hard. Like, other people made comments like, oh yeah, if you want to hop in with Marty, they would say like the odd thing like that. And he trained really hard, but the guy never grew, man. He just looked exactly the same all the time. He never really gained any significant amount of muscle. He looked like he lifted weights, but he did not look like a bodybuilder at all. He didn't have any genetic predisposition to have like the pecs or anything like that. And I just remember thinking like, this doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
I was aware of that. Like, as a kid, I was aware of that. Like, I'm 15 and I'm looking across the gym and I'm like, man, I put an inch on my arms in it in like the first 3 months I trained, and this guy like is killing himself. Like, I'm almost bigger than this guy, and I've only been here a year,
Right.
Yeah.
And it was like, not saying that people nowadays don't see that and notice it, but I just remember my experience of like really seeing long-term, like hard effort, just nothing happening, and he was like eating and pounding shakes and like just hardcore, but just never grew at all. And it was just, it was good to see as a kid, because you realize you're like, well, hey, there's a spectrum, and I don't really know where I am, somewhere on it.
Yeah.
But, let's not get too cocky,
So I think to really answer the question, what you come down to is, what does it mean to have the genetics? And I think there's the part that people miss, like, because there's different stages of it. Like, for example, how does your body hold up for years of training? That's part of the genetics, just training hard, right? We're not talking about drugs. How does your body handle gear? Like, how often, Ron, do you get asked, oh man, you have any problems with acne? And you're like, no, never. Well, what if you took this? No. This? No.
Yeah.
Like, all these little things were never issues for me. Oh, did you have any bad reactions to this? No. Anger issues? No. Like, all of those things functioned fine. Recovery was fine. I didn't have a slew of injuries, and I definitely trained on a line that most people would have broken in half. Okay. So I think you got to factor those things in. But the easiest way to do that is say, A, do I love bodybuilding? Do I love doing this? And kind of get after it for a while, because I got serious in 2005 leading into 2006. I did my first show where I really went for it. And after that show, I was like, I want to do this. And I said, all right, I want to compete within 2 years of now, and I want to win the whole thing. And 2 years later, I won my first overall. And I was like, okay, I demolished the kid I was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What will happen if I compete again in another year and a half or so? So it was October of 2008 that I competed. I competed again in 2010 in June and won the Junior Nationals. What happened in that year and a half was nuts. Year and 8 months was nuts. I think that those are the things you got to factor in. But the other thing is during that time, and I know, Ron, you speak the same on this, I was a machine. Like, literally, bodybuilding was my life. I didn't miss meals. I wasn't like the perfect dieter. I was a big believer in having whatever food here and there, but every 3 hours protein and food was going down my throat. And I don't think I ever missed a training day. If anything, it was the opposite. It was staying home when you were supposed to, but it'll start to show itself. Because when I told people after my first show, I was like, I think I'm going to do this for a living. I don't have that great structure thing. People more or less laughed, and I don't disagree with them, but I went for it. And then by the time I won my first overall, a third of those people were starting to wonder if it was possible. I was still sure it was. Then in 2010, it was kind of an agreement. Like, okay, this is going to work. So I think the biggest thing is being a realist along the way with how you're improving to really make that decision. But unless you're Phil Heath, you don't walk in, I had to have you run quarter turns, and I go, yeah, you can do this. Like, they're just too many. I don't think people realize that we'll call them the 1% of bodybuilding. They don't ask that question. So you're not that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have to ask, that's a start right there. You know what I'm saying? If you have to ask, then there's it. But then also too, like you may have better genetics than you realize, because you could have 0 delts, right, naturally, and then you start training and they just pop out of nowhere. And you can take that, as far as you can take it. I think that the initial point both of you guys made is so important, that it's, do you have the passion for it? Because if that is the foundation, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to that's going to become your life. But just because you love basketball doesn't mean you can be a pro basketball player either. There's that. But you can still take it as far as you can take it. And I can speak personally that there have been so many lessons in my life. Like, I am far from a pro, I was far from becoming a pro, yet bodybuilding has been a huge influence in my life personally. It's meant a lot to me, and I could have never competed against either of you guys,
Well, I think you got to add in one more thing, slightly off topic, but some of the best bodybuilders I know weren't great competitively. And that sounds confusing to people, but to me, I used to hate the argument, well, you got to compete if you're a bodybuilder. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, does that mean that Ron's not a bodybuilder anymore? That I'm not a bodybuilder anymore? Yeah. I mean, I give me 12 weeks, I'll still beat most people that think that. And that's not the goal. So, bodybuilding is living the lifestyle. And if you enjoy doing that, there are plenty of guys, like you said, Ron, that live it day in and day out. And I mean, I don't think anyone can deny that the guy at your gym was a bodybuilder, so.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, like when you say guys that are good at bodybuilding, even though they don't compete, like they put the work in and they get the results. And if you put it like relative, like I've seen some guys, man, relative to the amount of gear they took, which was like very, very little. These are like, I've seen guys that had crazy genetics, like I'm sure Scott's dieted a bunch of guys that just did one show, like I remember one guy's like, my wife's letting me do one show.
Yeah.
Right.
Hey, tell us about that. That was awesome.
And I helped him, and man, his body just like in 4 months, he must have put on 20 pounds of tissue while he got shredded. Like he completely transformed. Like I think his arms were bigger on stage than they were when he started. And his
he actually gained weight during the prep.
Yeah, like his weight hardly moved, but he just got. And then his glutes were ripple chip shredded. Like he just did one show for fun. He was like 40 years old, and just like everyone was like, "What the hell did you do to that guy?" And I'm like, "That guy's just got it." It was just same old diet, like probably 400 tests with nothing.
Right.
Like, probably 400 tests a week with like no anabolics. I don't even know if he took any like orals or anything, like Anavar or anything. I was probably barely anything. Because he's like, oh yeah, my wife's like, let me do this one show, but like, can't
go crazy.
Yeah, can't go crazy, and like you see somebody and you're just like,
it's a cool perspective too. And
you know what I mean?
I don't like him.
At the end of the day,
and like the whole thing was just a riot for him. Like it was kind of easy, like he'd show up to pose at the gym because I saw him every Sunday at the gym, and he'd show up and he'd be like, I had a Mars bar on Wednesday, but I did a little extra cardio, and then he'd gear down and I'd be like, oh my God, you're like way better than last week.
We should have 2 Mars bars next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think he stressed a second.
That's so cool.
No.
I think that at the end of the day, and when we talk about this, you know what I really, really want for everybody who watches all of our stuff is I just want them to have a good experience with bodybuilding, you know, so that they keep it in their lives and that they can continue doing this long term. You know, really, that's to me what if we could bestow anything upon people, but it bums me out when people are disappointed. But hey, all of us, I don't care how good the three of us are, because I mean, my genetics are going to be better than some other people's are too. You know, we all had our own limitations. There had to be some point where we all recognize, well, I can't take this further. You know what I mean? So there is that, and that no matter what, we all have to like be okay with that, I guess. You know what I mean? Or otherwise people walk away and they're unhappy with the experience they had, you know, and then it's no longer fun.
I agree. Making sure that people have I love when I see people do their first show and they're happy.
Yeah.
You know, even if they didn't place that good or whatever, they're still like, oh man, this was awesome. You know?
Yeah.
Like that's great. It's also what's heartbreaking when you like, I won't name any names, but a buddy of mine come up to me and he's like, hey, you know, see that girl over there? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I helped her this weekend for the bikini show. And I was like, oh yeah. And he's like, man, you should have heard did you hear the story? And I was like, no. And he goes, oh, you know, her boyfriend came to me like 3 weeks out and he's like, man, like, I think there's something wrong with her coach. And he like showed him the diet and it was just like, you know, the nightmare, like it was like 700 calories and, you know, like just, you know, 2 hours cardio, just like all the stereotypical stuff like that. None of us would ever do. Like,
right.
You know, Dusty would never eat 700 calories and do 2 hours of cardio. He would just never do it.
No.
And so he said, well, let me help her. So he like took over her diet and like saved her entire experience.
Cool.
And she was like, you know, that sort of thing. Like she was like, man, this was like the worst experience of my life until 3 weeks ago. Yeah. You know? And so, you know, it's a shame when that type of thing happens. You know what I mean? You know, it's really good when someone, you know, can help them. So, but making sure people
can we add how hardcore she is for doing that?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I always find interesting is when somebody comes to you with that issue, you're like, okay, first off, I know you're going to be fine prepping because you're a machine.
Yeah.
Now we're going to double your food and lower your cardio. You're going to get leaner. Oh, girls are
tough.
Machines.
They're very durable.
Insane.
All right.
Well,
listen, we had a couple other topics. we had a bunch actually, but what do you guys think? Because there was two of them. One of them was, do you prefer to train in a full gym or completely alone, minus training partner? And the other one was, what is something that you had to sacrifice in your life to get what you have today? We could take either of those. Which one do you guys want to do
Choice
first?
B.
B? All right.
Oh, B? Okay. I'm fine with that.
And Ron, you're starting because I chose B.
Oh. I don't know. These conversations are weird because like there's like, so, you know, I'm working on like trying to, you know, do a bunch of things. So I feel like this is the type of question you talk about when you're done. Yeah. I don't feel like I'm done yet. So, but
we can't talk about this from the grave, buddy. We got to do it now.
No,
good point.
I just always lived my life where I didn't buy something if I couldn't afford it. And I've never really cared about stuff. Like, yeah, I got like some nice guitars now, but like this is recent. Like I'm 47 years old. I should have some nice stuff. Right. You know, I wasn't 25. I didn't have 20 grand worth of guitar gear and a fancy bike in a room when I was 25 and then not own a condo.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
I never did any of that. I played a cheap guitar for the first several years, like first 10 years, I played a $200 guitar, you know, and, you know, saved my money and invested money and put money in mutual funds and like all the basic, you know, stuff. Even when I was like 21, 22, 23, I was always saving money and just didn't spend stuff if I couldn't afford it. And I drove a shit box car like for a long time.
Have to do that.
I didn't. No, but I did that. Like I drove a $600 car for like 2 years. I drove the $3,000 car for like 5 years, and then I finally got like a Grand Cherokee, but I put 300,000 kilometers on it, drove it into the ground, So like, I wasn't a spender, and I feel like, I'm happy with where I'm at. And I think that had a lot to do with it. I know Dusty's,
Absolutely.
Rolled a lot of cigars with $100 bills, but he's also saved his money. So,
how about you, Scott? I love hearing your perspective. It's always very different.
Man, I can relate to everything Ron is saying, because I was thinking about that with like my gun stuff, that I have, like, if I were to go back and I were to think about some of the younger people that I talked to, and they've got like that one rifle, and that was like the one thing they could afford. And I've got a few, and I feel like that, to me, I feel really grateful that I'm in a position now where, and like you said, man, it's like I should be able to buy stuff that I like nowadays, At the same time, I want to try to be careful with that, but what did I have to give up? You know what? I had to give up my irresponsibility. Was the big one. Like that was really kind of a key to a lot of, like, irresponsibility and selfishness were like the two things that I think really held me back, and that helped me to grow up. And even after I made that decision, it's still taking me like 15 years to act like, you know what I mean? Like I made a decision and I knew, like, from this point forward, and it was like getting clean too. That was a big part of it.
Right.
I knew from this point forward, it's going to build. And now I feel like 15 years later, I'm finally seeing like the work that I started back then,
Right.
That's great.
It's the patience is such an important part of all of it too. Being patient, but having, outlined goals. And I
remember too,
I saw people spending too much around me, and it was like, I just was like, oh, it's not going to go well.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember celebrating like 5 years clean. And at that time, so, I had my whole other life and was on a different life path with photography and art. And then I got clean. And then when I got clean, I was like, well, what am I going to do now? And so I just I took a job and just like worked within the system, and it wasn't me, but it was like, I'm just doing what I had to do. And I'm like figuring out how to live. And I remember getting like 5 years clean or 6 years clean. And my boss, who was a guy who was really helpful at the time, I used to, through college, I worked at a custom picture framing shop, and I went back there for a while. And I commented on Facebook, or made a post on Facebook, hey, I have 5 years clean today. And he said, that's really great, but what are you going to do with your life? It's more than just staying clean. And it really irked me at the time, because I understood that. But at that time, it's like, it's been 5 years. Yeah. But I'm still trying to put the pieces together, and I wasn't there. I wasn't there yet, but I knew I was on my way to where I am today. So it irked me at the time though, because I was just like, it was still, to me, early on in that process. I had a lot to learn still,
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think, Scott, was there any moments, this is just my curiosity, where you went, damn, like I'm on the right track now? Like, did you get an apartment alone? And we're like, cause I think we, when we're talking and people talk about success or big dreams, like I feel like we downgrade those little things. Like getting your first apartment, like alone or whatever it is, to me was a huge deal. And now it's like as soon as someone gets the apartment, they want to tell you about their $3 million house they're going to get someday. I'm like, dude, I love my one bedroom. So I don't know, was there something where when you were coming back from, clean, and it was just something that you were like, okay, this is a sign I'm on my path?
Absolutely. But it wasn't monetary. It was seeing that I could be of value to other people. Like my mom was going through some hard stuff at one time, and I was able to help her during that. Or even awesome. Like me not falling apart when my dog died, which was that was like the first really hard thing I had to deal with when I was clean. And it's not that I wanted to use drugs as a result of that, but I also didn't have the skills to cope with life when you have really strong emotions. So that was a really difficult challenge. And to be able to get through those things, to me, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm definitely on the right path, because my life didn't fall apart as a result of that traumatic experience.
Right. That's awesome. Oh. Yeah. Yeah. As far as the giving up thing or sacrifice, first, I'm going to take a step back from the question and say, I didn't do this well in the beginning. I always like to point that out, because anytime you listen to people, like Ron really was smart and conservative with money and those things from a young age. I wasn't. Like the moment I was making money, I was like, I need a 7 Series. And I bought one.
Really?
And, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, and I've talked about this on the show before, I didn't understand that there was a difference between being able to pay for something and being able to afford it. Okay. So I learned that down the line. But what I would say is, look at life the same way you look at bodybuilding. You would say to yourself, okay, I want to win, the Vancouver Pro-Am amateur division in 2024. Okay. And you would work backwards from the show. What needs to happen between that date and today to make that happen? And you line everything up and you follow the path. And if you follow the path, I mean, granted, someone can beat you, but you're going to have your best shot to get there. I feel like in life, what we do is we say, okay, I want to retire at this age. I want to have a house that's this. I want to have a lake house. And then we just randomly throw in there that we're going to buy a couple 7 Series, as if that's not going to slow down that process to get to that finish line, or even make it impossible.
Yeah.
So I think that was the big thing I learned was, once I eliminated those things, I also had the freedom to make decisions that weren't just monetary. When I signed with Mutant, they did not give me the best offer financially that I got that day, but I knew it was the right fit. So I didn't need to go to money. You know what I mean? And that has long since paid off. So those kind of things are great. And then the biggest thing that I would add is, along the way, making sure that you take those moments to notice your little wins. Because like I said, I do remember the first apartment and how awesome it was during the process. And that was, rather than being like a quick, okay, I can't wait to do the next thing. Yeah. It was like, all right, I'm on a roll now. I can do this. You get your first place, you furnish it like a big boy, and you don't have any posters on your wall. You're like, there we go. All right. Like, it's not embarrassing for mom to come over. So,
depending on the posters.
Inching along. Yeah. Well, if they're good posters, Mom, come on now. But, I think inching along is the key, because just like bodybuilding, we all want it immediately. And that's why guys take too many drugs in the start. And that's why guys start making a little bit of money and drive a 7 Series like a moron. Like, that's not going to get you to where you want to get long term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we had that other question. And it was, do you prefer to train in a full gym? And we also have some listener questions too, or completely alone minus a training partner?
I always loved a moderately busy gym. I'm I've had some amazing workouts in an empty gym. I mean, we still go to Braden's house once in a while and smash in his garage, you know what I mean? And it's like super fun, crank the music. The workouts are always awesome. But I sort of, I guess I'm kind of a recluse most of the day. Like I've always spent a lot of my day alone. Do you know what I mean? Like I've always done that. I've always spent a great deal of my day alone. So going to the gym is kind of like, I guess, even if I don't even talk to anybody when I train, which is, how it usually goes, it's still kind of my social time in a weird, like subconscious, psychological way. Like I was around people today. Don't tell me I'm a hermit. I was in a big room full of people. I'm perfectly social.
With my headphones on.
Yeah. With my headphones on.
Not talking to anyone. I was on an airplane. I'm social.
Yeah, but I was like the energy of the gym. Like I still think of that first gym that I started in. It wasn't meant to be a hardcore gym. It just sort of became one because that was the crew there at 5:00 every night after school. Nice. It was just kind of like, there was some football kids in there. There were some old power lifters. There was some local bodybuilders that were actually pretty good. They're playing, Metallica CDs and stuff. So it was like unintentionally kind of a hardcore little gym, and people yelling and hollering and, using chalk and, swearing and dropping F-bombs. Like, I remember the management would they'd send somebody in like, hey, can you guys not swear as loud? Like, I remember that that kind of thing happened when I was a kid, Yeah. So I guess that
still get it today.
Yeah. Still get it today.
It's called YouTube now.
Yeah. Just YouTube does it. But yeah, I don't know. Like I always liked the energy of a pretty busy gym. That was always like part of the fun for me, was just the other energy too,
Right. Scott?
You know what? I enjoy my home gym, but I've been heading up to my friend's gym called West Fit, and it's just a small gym. But every time I go there, I get a good workout in and I stay more focused. So I've been enjoying going up there and training at Mike's gym. That's been cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I guess mixing it up is also like part of the novelty. Like when we go train it in Braden's garage or whatever, it's like part of the novelty is that we're like, okay, no one's around today. Like,
and it just keeps me more focused. I don't know. I've been getting away from I'll have other stuff and I'll be like, I'll sit down for a minute and then it takes me longer to get back versus if I'm there, I just do my 3 sets or 2 sets and then I move on, do the next thing. Right. Where am I going next? And I just stay plugged in, and it's good. It's been good for me. It's been a nice change. Yeah.
Right. I'm going to do a Scott here and pull an accurately rated.
Oh man.
And what I mean is,
you say you love both equally.
Now, when I first started being in the gym and watching the freaks that I wanted to become was everything. Like I figured out when the best bodybuilders were training, and I would go then because I just wanted to watch what they were doing, feed off of it, get going. And I remember too, as in time, as I started to improve, they approached me. I never approached them. And just kind of let me know things were going well. Then when you fast forward to the word I can't say, but there was that little break where no one was in the gym for a couple of years.
Yes.
I absolutely loved training in Muscle Factory alone.
Yeah.
Like we would go in there. It was me, Tommy, and Will. And we didn't even turn all the lights on. We would just turn the music up. We had all the windows covered up and we would train. And it was fun because it was so literally focused on the thing. I think we spoke even less when it was just the 3 of us. Because you'd walk in chest. Okay.
Right.
And then you get started. You know what I mean?
It's super grateful. Super grateful to be there too.
Oh, right? Yeah. It was just awesome. And and the thing is that was before Muscle Factory is what it is now. I mean, there were no rowing equipment in there, Ron. So it was which grip of barbell, dumbbell, or Smith row are we doing today?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which was awesome, actually. And that was also my reminder that I had gotten spoiled living in Scottsdale and I go to this gym for quads and I go to this gym for hamstrings. And now I'm like, don't be just train in the gym you're at. You're fine. Figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
But now that I'm old and still not wise, but training at the gym that we're at and seeing young kids blast is awesome to me. There are a few kids in our gym that just go in and just blast their brains out and have no idea what they're doing, but they're working hard. I just see them sweating and I'm like, and everyone in the gym is grumpy old men that are irritated. All those 5 kids are all training together. They're in the way. And I'm like, dude, that was life back then. I lived to get off of school and go to the gym. And then as soon as it's over, start talking about what we were doing tomorrow. I don't know how we all forgot that. That was the best time period of my life, was just training with the boys and being we're going to train until we puke. Okay. What are we doing? Everything.
Yeah.
Those were good times. So it's fun now in reverse to look and see them, because there are the few that, there's a couple kids in that gym that I didn't know. And you go in the locker room one day and they're peeled down and you're like, oh, if you need to ask if you can be a pro, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is my Scott McNally accurately rated.
I got a follow-up question for you guys. So this is a question. So we had Nick Walker on Blood, Sweat, and Gear last week, which
Who's that?
Turned out really good. He's a guy who doesn't have to ask. He knows.
Who's that? His guest posing looked insane, by the way.
We asked him a question. What do you prefer, a gym that has good energy or a gym that has great equipment? So kind of a related question here in a way, you know what I mean? Because you could have great equipment and it's empty, or nobody, that we really care about, just the grandma crew there, or basic stuff like Muscle Factory with like 3 different grips, but not a lot of people. Oh, excuse me, all the energy.
I answer that question every day I train right now, by the way. Because I don't train at the best gym in my city.
Okay.
Because the owners are douchebags, and you're not allowed to have good energy in that gym.
Oh, I hate that kind of place. We have one of those too.
They do not want it, and they're losing people left and right, and they think it's because of their pricing structure, and they just cannot see what's happening. Like, people love to go to the gym. I mean, Ron, you know this. When you were in your prime, how many like normal people, because you're also a nice guy, would walk up to you like, "Oh, I love when I come in and Ron Partlow's in here training." They're not scared of you. They love it.
It was. I remember tons of times that happened. Like, I remember, people would bitch about how bodybuilders get treated, and I'd be like, "I don't get treated like that."
Me neither.
Maybe it's you.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you're doing something that irritates everybody, and they don't, like, for some reason, they just don't want to put up with it. I remember there'd be times I'd go into like World Health back in Edmonton. It was like kind of a more fitness club, I'd go train there, and I'd like leg press and I'd make some noise, and then I'd hack squat and I'd make some noise, and then I'd like, do my extensions and leg curls, and I'd say, talk to the girls at the front desk on the way out, and chat with the manager, and they were all like, "Yeah, good workout, eh?" And I'd, "Good luck at your show this year," and all that stuff.
I love that vibe.
And then there'd be other bodybuilders would be like, "Yeah, I got in trouble for yelling." And I'm like, "Well, I don't know. I don't know why I don't get in trouble and you do. Maybe there's more to it. Are you yelling on like curling, warm ups or something? Like maybe there's a context to why I don't get in trouble and you do, because other bodybuilders would be like, how come you don't get in trouble for your leg days?" And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it just makes sense. Maybe they're like, oh yeah.
I think that's the answer though. You said that, Ron, and it made me laugh because I said, that's never happened. I go, oh wait, yes, it has. At the gym I left here. Is the only time, and it's funny, but so I came to Gold's, and we'll have to bring up a 19th separate subject here, but I came into Gold's and I wanted to try it, so I just got a day pass. Walked in, got a day pass, sure, $15, got the pass, good for 2 days. I trained that day. I had another day in the day pass. I'm like, I don't need it. I signed up. They had like a kiosk where you sign up, so you just do it yourself. Sign up at the gym. I'm coming in there. Like 2 days later, I'm doing dead stop rows, and I can feel, I don't know who he was, the manager, the trainer manager, whatever he was, but a big dude. And I felt him behind me as I'm rowing. And it wasn't like quiet rows. I wasn't church rowing that day. And I got done, I put the weight down. It's the same movement that I got in trouble with at the last gym. So I sat up, and I just kind of slowly turned. And he goes, "That was awesome. I haven't been able to see you since you got in here, but we're glad you're here." And I'm like,
that's cool.
Oh. And now that's that I train with him every Sunday. Now we train legs. So yeah,
that's cool.
He's cut from that cloth as well. And but it's just funny the difference, because I was like, oh come on, don't do this to me again, Yeah. And that was that. But yeah, I think if you treat the planes right, I'm with you. Like I'd get ready for shows, and like, my grandmother or someone like her would walk up and be like, "Good luck with the show. You're looking great."
Yeah.
And I'm like,
right.
I didn't even know you would know I'm doing this. That's fantastic.
That is really cool. I love that too.
What did Nick say? What was his choice?
Oh, he said energy. He said energy all day long. Yeah. He likes a gym with good energy, and that he'll make that work, versus the great equipment.
There'd be like a breaking point on the equipment though.
Well, it's got to be functional. You're not saying it's like not going to work.
Yeah.
We're not talking about training at Gold's. Gold's Venice on the beach where the bars are all bent and rusty.
Right. There's two plates here,
pit.
another plate way over there.
So I got to bring up a separate subject if we have a moment. Do we have time on this episode, Scott?
We've got time.
So I got to bring this up. I got to bring this up to you, Ron, because I think it's fantastic. It's on the subject I just said about getting a day pass. So the other day, a guy comes into the gym here, a pro, apparently a classic physique pro, very good. I don't know his name because I don't give a shit. But anyways, he comes in and says he needs a day pass, and then immediately follows it up with, but I don't pay for day passes. Because I'm important, and I did the Olympia. And I'm not going to go further into the story because it might get someone in trouble for telling me the whole thing.
That's great. It's amazing.
I have to ask, have you guys ever seen that or even known someone with the nerve to think you were so special that you can't pay a $15 fee? What is wrong with people?
Yeah, it's a strange thing.
Ron's gotten this. You can tell by the way he's answering right now. Ron's gotten this before.
It's a strange thing. I've gotten a lot of great treatment at a lot of gyms. You know, I've been let in for free a bunch of times, but I have always tried to pay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You know, I got a free membership from the last owner of the last gym I trained at. And I was like, I'm happy to pay. And he's like, no, I'm not going to let you pay. Just sign the contract and I'll put you in, and, you know, like that sort of thing. So I've been very fortunate, but I have never, ever expected it or asked for it. And I've always tried to pay. Like when we walked into Binus, did we try to get in for free?
Of course not.
You know, we just walk in, we're like, hey, and they're like, day pass. We're like, yep. They're like $30. Boom. Wristband. Thanks. Like, and the gym's full of pros. Like no one gives a shit about your pro card, you know? And, it's I don't know, man. This weird expectation, like I think that they think Instagram is the real world or something. Like that's an accurate depiction of their world. Yeah, you know, like their world is their Instagram. That's what the world is, and it's like no, that's your world. You know, most people have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, it's super shocking to me because, you know, as he's telling this story, I'm just shaking my head because, you know, like you, Ron, I've went into gyms. Actually, I went into a Muscle Factory in Texas where John Jewett and Renee train. And this was years ago. And I went in and I was like, hey, can I get a day pass? And there was a young girl behind the counter. I don't know, just looked like a gym worker. And she goes, let me see. I go, oh, you guys don't do day passes? Like I was nervous. I got dropped off by an Uber. I'm in the middle of nowhere from my hotel. And she goes, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to let you pay. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, no, what's the price? And she's like, let me call the owner real quick. And she called, she goes, yeah, sorry. He said I couldn't let you pay. I knew who you were and I wanted to ask. And I was like, A, shocked that she even had any clue. B, I was frozen because I was like, oh no, do they not do day passes? Because she seemed so like confused with what was going on. And then, and the owner came in, he was awesome guy. But again, it's like, dude, if I'm going to come to your gym and it's $20 for the day, thanks for letting me use your equipment. You know, I mean, it's
I like supporting businesses too.
Yeah. You have a gym, right?
I mean, yeah.
And it's funny because I was talking to Lance about this, and I wish I knew this kid's name, but there's a big like Instagram kid that goes into his gym, young, early 20s, and I guess he's like a big deal. Like when he walks in, all the kids know who he is because like a college age gym. And he came in there for a while, and then he left for a bit. I don't know why. And he came back in and got a new membership and signed up. And Lance was like, "Hey, man, like, you know, we're all good. You don't have to pay. Like, you bring a lot of people and you're solid." And he goes, "Oh, no, I pay." He goes, "For a gym like this, I pay." And it's like Lance is telling me this. I'm like, yeah, that's why he's successful, because he sees that and he knows he's got a great place to train, to create content, and the $40 a month. That's a steal to run his business out of.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good that there's both sides of the coin, but I really do wish that I could have been there when the guy was going on, because I'm like, no one cares that you're a pro bodybuilder.
Yeah, those days are over. It doesn't, you know what I mean?
Yeah, my friend Mike that I mentioned, his gym Westfit, I have a membership there. And the reason, like, he would, if I was like, hey, Mike, can I just get in? He'd let me come train anytime I wanted. And like, if Victoria wants to come with me, she'll come with me, you know, but I pay a monthly membership there. And here's the thing is that I want to support that gym. And I feel like if he were to go out of business and I didn't support him, I would never forget that. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, he's got it. It's in my community. He's trying to cultivate fitness and training, hard training. He's a good guy. And if I don't support that and it ends and it's gone, then it's kind of on me, you know?
Yeah, a piece of it at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not all of it. I won't take that responsibility.
Part of the new economy is you have to like support the stuff that you like, you know, like you need to support it in today's day and age. For a dollar getting worth less every single day.
Right.
Fact.
Listen, okay. I got a question. I got a few questions here, and I should tell everybody too, if you guys have any questions that you want to share with the show, then comment, plus comments, all that stuff. It helps to boost the programming, but we need listener questions. Since we put the Ed interview out, you know, everybody had a lot of really nice stuff to say, you know, about that interview, by the way, and thank you for all of that. But we didn't get a lot of questions in the last one.
Right. I had a guy come up to me at the gym. He's like, you know, Ed Cohn? Like, that was just think of all the people we've had on the show, like Jay and everybody. But Ed Cohn was the one where he like come up to me and he's like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Like, he was so like cool. Pretty stoked about Ed Cohn being on the show. So that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I had a few people mention that.
I got a text from Ed Cohen. Like, that makes me feel so special. So he was telling me about, so, you know, he's doing the stem cells, and he gave me some info on some other stuff that he's doing with his doctor. So I was like, keep me posted. I want to know how these other treatments go, you know?
Absolutely.
That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like we could all use some stem cells. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could fire that information over to me. I'll teach you how to do a share of a text message.
So what about this one, guys? This is from Chris Wilson, and this was in the Facebook group. And he asked the group this question. I wanted to see what you guys had to say. He said, I'm 48. I started lifting for physique about 2 months ago. So he's literally brand new. My question is, if starting from absolute zero, what could I expect in, say, 2 years? My diet is on point, clean and controlled, sleep is good, plenty of water, I don't drink booze, I work out hard, to me, 3 days a week, and a day or two of abs, calves, forearms, etc. I do a basic push-pull legs, shoulders, push day, pull day, legs, shoulders, ab day. He says, I'm not looking for specifics. Just what could I expect working hard, eating and sleeping right at my age, being 48, coming from ground zero?
So I think it's not the age that matters much. I'm sure there's some science about that. It's the hormones. Like, I don't think it matters too much if you're 35 or 45. If you're starting at ground zero, it's your training age and your hormone situation that are going to be the difference. So if his body's really banged up from all sorts of other athletics and he's really going to be hindered, or if he's already got a bunch of pre-existing injuries at 48, then there's a different story. If he's technically like, let's just say he's gotten to 48 with like nothing wrong with him and he can just give her in the gym, then it would just be his hormone panel that he might want to optimize for maximum. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think training age and his hormone situation are the big keys there.
So you're saying
it's
trend.
not really sorry?
Your trend is that's what you're trying to say, right? Trend.
A lot of words for 4 letters, you know?
Yeah. So the training age
trend.
matters. Like, you know, can he, you know, what can he do? Is it unfettered, like ruthless training? You know, like, I don't know what his situation is, but yeah, I mean, those things matter. And then is he going to stay like natural? Like, is his test level on the decline or is it optimized? So those would be important things to know. It's hard to say otherwise.
Yeah.
I think you really covered the majority of what could be added to that. So, it's consistency over time, and also the big question we don't know the answer to is how will he hold up to the training?
Yeah.
But
I mean,
I think we forget. I agree with you on the training age, but did he play football for high school, college, whatever? He's a busted up mess. And then he's like, all right, now I'm going to lift, because your knee jerk is always like, well, training age, you're young. It's like, well, not if he went through the meat grinder and 3 other sports. He's like, I did motocross before this. You're like, oh, well, then
yeah. Training age might be 62.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what
answer.
too is and I'll say this is that I remember when I first got started up, and I thought my diet was on point. And everybody always says my diet's on point.
Diet's good.
God.
But then you learn more. So what's on point now is going to be different than what's on point in 2 years. And you're training. If you're training hard now, what's training hard now is going to be different than what training hard in 2 years is going to be. And so I say that too, because I think we all see that a lot. And when we see newer guys that are they've got training figured out, it's like, man, I've been training for a long time. I still don't have it figured out, because I'm still I still redefine stuff. I still come up against problems, and then or I hit a wall, and it's what worked really good stopped working, and then I need to figure it out again, or the whole thing with after I got sick, my training is completely different than it was 2 years ago. So it's there's always an evolution. So, if he was training as hard as Dusty can train, then he's probably going to make better progress than if he's training as hard as a newbie can train. But we know that he's not training like Dusty. He can't, because he hasn't done it for as long as Dusty, and most people can't anyway. So,
yeah, I'd say that, just generally though, someone who's pretty fresh to bodybuilding should be able to recomp, between 15 to 30 pounds in a 2-year period. Yeah. I mean, if you had a really healthy 27-year-old come to me and he just starts training, and 2 years later you said he was 30 pounds bigger and 30 pounds leaner, I would think, oh, the guy's got, he responded well, but that's possible. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. Another guy might be 10 pounds bigger and 10 pounds leaner, but that's still a significant change in how you're going to look. That's a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
So, sort of think in those terms, I guess.
What about, let's see. I think that was really. Oh, we had a couple here from Jim. Jim's always got something for us.
Love
Overrated,
Jim.
Underrated. The Dire Straits, especially Kevin. Who is this?
David Knopfler.
David Knopfler.
David Knopfler. Yeah, Knopfler.
It's a little far away from me to see. David and Kevin look so similar.
Very same.
Well, I don't know a ton about Dire Straits. I know that Mark Knopfler and David Knopfler are brothers, and they started the band. And Mark Knopfler sings, the song "Money for Nothing." That's Dire Straits.
Oh,
great song.
Sultan's a Swing. Swing, Walk of Life. They've got a bunch of great hits from the 80s. And Mark and David started the band. David's a rhythm guitar player. I don't really know anything about David Knopfler other than he was only in the band for the first 2 albums.
Not more than I know.
Shit out of you, right? I don't know anything about him, but he was only in it for 2 years, from 87 to 89. His wife got pregnant. Then they had a kid, Jerry. And
no, I know that he was on the first 2 albums, and then he left the band because him and his brother fought a lot, and then he went and he just was a producer. He produces, but I don't know anything.
And he's a producer. You knew that too.
I don't know as much about the women in my house as he does about him.
But Dire Straits is great. I always wanted to see Dire Straits live. They've got their hits, but then there's also tons of, they've got tons of albums, and Mark Knopfler's written music for decades and decades, but I always wanted to go see them live. They're kind of a blues band essentially, but they're known as a rock band. So they're great. They're great. But yeah, I don't really listen to them a lot, but obviously I know they're good stuff. Sultan's a Swing. Love that song.
It's a good one.
Money for Nothing. Who doesn't like Money for Nothing? Who doesn't like that riff?
I love some Money for Nothing. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun for me.
Checks for free.
Me too.
When you're asking questions, target Ron on things he doesn't know about.
Yeah. Okay, this is one for each of us. Ron, I'm heading to Edmonton in a few weeks. Anything you recommend seeing?
Snow.
Oh man, I don't know. I only lived there for like 19 years. So it's 16 years. I was there for 16 years? Yeah, 16 years. So I don't know.
Suggestion. The Oilers.
Yeah.
Connor. McDavid.
Well, yeah.
The greatest
Go to an Oilers game.
Possibly ever.
Yeah, that's the answer. That's the answer. He's possibly, well, he's the greatest player in the league right now, easily, isn't he?
Oh, for sure. For sure, but possibly
he just scored his. Yeah, you're saying that, aren't they?
No, like, I'm sorry to go on a tangent, but like, you could have somebody who doesn't know hockey watch and just be like, it's like asking a 3-year-old, like, what doesn't belong when he starts skating. You're just like,
well, I saw his overtime goal the other night. I saw his overtime goal the other night to win, and that's just business as usual.
You gotta love this, Scott. He misses a breakaway in overtime.
Okay.
Goes up, smashes his stick on the boards twice. Bam, bam. Turns around. The puck goes over the side to his teammate. He passes right at. So now he's got the same breakaway with shorter distance, does the same move and scores and wins in overtime.
No kidding.
The identical move because he's probably so pissed himself for missing because he could have got it the first time. He's like,
right,
I'll do it again. This goalie knows what's coming. And I'm still going to beat him.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's watching him. Like, if the Oilers are on TV, I watch the game.
Yeah,
just because I want to watch him.
That good.
Yeah, it's I've been watching hockey for forever, and obviously watched Lemieux, Gretzky, the greats. He's a different thing.
Okay,
it's wild. So
go to an Oilers game.
I answered his question.
Plus, the Oilers, Edmonton just got a brand new arena like within the last few years.
Oh,
I went and saw a Tool concert there, like probably 2018 or something like that. But it's like really nice, all brand new, you know, like one of the fanciest ones at the time in the league. So that's cool to see, you know. And really, in Edmonton, there's not really much else. Like, we don't have a World Trade Center there. It's like the new arena. That's the site. So you're pretty safe if you just get to an Oilers game.
All right, Dusty, besides Go Dogs, what else have you gone all in on in the great SE? What's SE? Do you mean SC? Southeast? Okay.
Or church. Is it supposed to be
I've been going to church a ton, just like the rest of them. That's not true. I was just kidding. I have not been doing that. But anyways, that would be like a true commitment to the South. If I dove in, no, nothing like super Southern, but I've definitely gone all in on cigars. That's a commitment to me now. That's I don't want to get into the pricing. I'm working on ways to make more money from cigars so I can stop spending it. So that's my current goal in life. But yes, I do blame the South for that because you could never sit outside and smoke cigars in Arizona.
Yeah.
The idea of adding heat to your mouth of temperature while it's 9,000 degrees outside is not a thing.
Yeah.
Unless I could smoke a snow cone, like forget about it in that place. So yeah, nothing exciting here along those lines.
Isn't a snow cone when you sprinkle Coke on your weed?
Shh. My children listen to this.
Not like I would ever do that, but isn't that what it is?
I've heard. Scott, I have to read yours.
Terrible idea. And these, you go ahead and read it for me then, Dusty, and I'll answer it.
Scott, what are your top tips for growing your audience for a podcast?
So this is also from Jim McDonald. He has a podcast, and he does a podcast about like computer stuff, which I think he had messaged me too, and he was like, "Dude, I'm at a convention. It's our biggest convention in our industry, and I'm doing a podcast on stage today." So I thought that was really cool. Shout out to him. And I would say think of your audience and provide them with some type. I'll tell you what, this is something I had heard. You want to provide value, and you want to provide so much value that they share it with their friends. So if you found a $1 bill on the ground, you're going to pick it up, right? because it's a $1 bill. You're going to pick it up, put it in your pocket. But how many people are you going to tell about finding that $1 bill? Now, if you found a $20 bill just rolling in the wind, and you picked it up and you put it in your pocket, you're probably going to tell a bunch of people that day. Dusty, you would tell us. You'd be like, you wouldn't believe it. I was outside doing my Instagram Q&A and a 20 rolled by me. I picked it up and put it in my pocket. And we'd be like, holy crap, Dusty got a 20 today. That's crazy. Huh, what luck. Bam. So you want to provide that level of content. Each time that somebody tunes in, you want to give them a 20.
I like this.
I see.
Also, don't say...
That's excellent.
Never mind.
Yeah, don't swear.
Don't drop that swear words in the first 5 minutes.
I got one more thing.
After that, you're good.
I got one more thing, and I could be way off on this. This is a while back in the podcast, Ron. You were saying something about a gym, and something hit me. No, guys, I listened to Ron on a podcast long before I knew him. This goes back to like probably 2014. I want to say this was you, but tell me if I'm wrong, that somebody told a story that they got to the gym and it was only open for a half hour and they still wanted to get their workout in. Is this ringing a bell?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you remember this story? I am 99.9% sure it was you. Like something happened and whatever the case was, you only had like 40 minutes left, but you ended up getting the workout in anyway. And you used that. And this sounds like a round thing. You used that as like, this is your constraint for the day, that you got to get it in and you got to get it in that 40 minutes. And you said that you were tired and that you really weren't into it. But then once you got started, because of that constraint, you had one of the best workouts you had in a while. That was like 2014. It literally just came back to me.
That's
I actually think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
There was a day in my prep. I was getting ready for the Albertas in 99, and I was living at my friend's house in the basement and sleeping on a mattress on the floor and, you know, living out of a gym bag, going to college. Like
bodybuilding dream.
Ass.
Yeah.
Bodybuilding dream, sleeping on the floor, you know, just like, yeah, living out of a hockey bag and a lunchbox, like just, you know, prepping, getting up at 6 a.m, going to bed at midnight, you know, all that sort of stuff, just getting ready for the show. And I came home one day, like 6 weeks out, and my roommate's girlfriend had left a note. Like, it was like, hey, like, please, I can't remember what it was. It was like, no more cooking after 8 p.m., please, or something like that.
I don't like her. Go ahead.
Me either.
And I don't know. I can't remember what it was, but I just thought, oh, well, this is their house. So like, you know, I'm not going to be able to follow that rule. So I got to go. So I just called my other friend and I was like, hey, things aren't working out over here. I don't have any time for drama. It's all good. I just need, and he's like, oh, come stay at my place. And I was like, okay. So I just packed up everything I had, put it in my car. I was just about to go to the gym. And I was like, oh, now I have to move. So I just packed up everything, put it in my car, left a note. Hey, got to go. See ya. Boom. Moved. Went over to his house, unpacked, had to cook all my food because, you know, I was about to cook food, prep meals, and then go to the gym. So I had to go do all that at his house, you know, and then I didn't get to the gym till like 9:30 and it closed at 10. But I was like, I need to train today. I can't possibly miss a workout. Like it's not possible. I'm prepping for a show. It has to be perfect. I have to train shoulders today. I remember it's shoulders.
Which isn't a terrible where it's not like legs or something, you know?
No, I just rushed into the gym and like, I think I had less than 30 minutes. Like 27 minutes or something. And I just rushed and just like, boom, 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 and just pounded out as many work sets as I could possibly cram into that time and drop sets, strip sets, whatever. And I remember afterwards, I was just like, I think the way I told the story was I was sitting in my car and like, you know, the guy's locking up, like, you know, like I was the last guy out of the gym. Like he's locking up. Like,
yeah.
I'm watching him close
the lights
up
out while you finished,
and
you know?
Yeah. And I remember sitting there with like this massive shoulder pump. Like massive, and it was like minus 30 out, like death, freezing, like brutal Canadian cold out. And I remember thinking, nobody's going to beat me.
Love that.
It's not possible. Like I had a screwed up day and I just solved every problem immediately and just moved on. No hesitation, drop. Like, oh, okay, gone, move. Like, There's one goal. Nothing else matters. Everything else is just details that can sort out later. You know what I mean? And it was just like a good. I remember how I felt after that. I was like, this is like, and I'm back on track.
Yeah.
I finished my day exactly the way I needed. Every box was checked. Home to go to bed.
Including like your boxes of stuff.
Yeah.
I have to ask now because I'm me. Please at least tell me that you pulled a Dusty and wrote on her note, "Don't worry, I moved." Or,
No. I can't remember what I did.
But I remember my buddy called me. The phone call. He's like, "You moved out. Bitch said I couldn't cook after 8. I had to go."
I suggest if you're talking to the boyfriend, be like, I suggest you get out too.
No, it's all good. It was all good. He goes, "Where'd you go?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's all good. I cleared out." And he's like, "Oh man." And I was like, "It's all good. Don't worry about it." And it was like, fine. It was like, everything was okay.
That's amazing. It is.
Oh, that's so good. So good.
Yeah. I had one thing I had to say before we go.
Yeah.
I had a bit of a rant.
Oh,
I had something that was bothering me.
That's right.
I need to say something about. I don't mean to be judgy. I don't mean to be a judgy person.
I like when the story.
But I'm about to judge.
There's certain things, and if you do them, there's just things I think, right? Like, and one of them is not putting lids back on stuff. If you don't put a lid back on something, it makes me feel like you're not going to finish what you were doing. Like you don't finish things. So like it happened at, we had a funny convo on the staff chat the other day because someone left the lid not on the protein. So someone grabbed it off the shelf and it like fell.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh,
and everyone's like, "Oh, sorry,
word.
my bad." But it was funny. But it just made me think like that bothers me. And we were remember when we were talking about lids, Dusty, and that came up?
Oh yes.
And it's a situation. I don't understand it. It has to be. If it's not on, when I open a cupboard and I see a bunch of lids kind of tilted, like they're not screwed on, they're just sitting there.
Yeah.
That's dangerous.
Yeah.
I just think there's a lot of stuff about to fall apart.
You're going to write a note and just leave, pack your boxes.
I'm about to move out.
Yeah.
If I see that, if I'm staying at someone's house and I see dangerous booby traps set for me all over the place.
Yeah.
You know?
Gotta go, Emily.
Gotta go. Yeah. No, Dusty was killing himself. Okay.
Dude, that was.
You were talking about the girls in the house doing that.
Well, no, but so you set me off, which of course this is like a reverse of me, because you said that, and I had 2 issues that took place back to back that entered my mind because it's just happened yesterday, or no, it was this morning. I went to get some All In, and my youngest drinks it all the time. I drink it occasionally. So I'm like, all right, I get some All In. So I reach up in the cupboard and I grab an All In, and it's empty. Put it down.
Oh, yeah.
Grab another one. Empty. Put it down. Grab another one. Empty. I'm like,
got 3 empty tubs in the cupboard.
I finally grab one that's not empty, and yes, we have a ton of All In for anybody who's confused. And it's full, so I'm a little irritated about those 3, but I'm happy to have some. Then I open it, and you know the safety lid? It's not gone. It's just lifted.
Right.
It doesn't take it all the way off. I'm like,
yeah.
You couldn't even commit to opening the bottle. Like,
couldn't commit to opening it. That's almost worse than not putting the lid back on.
Dude, literally, I'm like, and I look in there, it's half empty or half full if it makes you happy. But the lid, it's been opened many times, and this wrapper's never been taken off the seal. I'm like, you're ninjaing around trying to get the scooper in there because it's still pinned on a lot. I'm like,
yeah.
This is my life.
And you know that's a small hand doing that. That's not a man hand. That's a small hand in there.
It's gotta be.
Because
This
that's
hand can't do that.
Yeah, logistics.
You know that's a chick who's leaving that on and not peeling that off. Yeah.
You told me that. I laughed about the 3 empties, and then I remembered. I'm like, oh, and don't forget, we don't take the thing all the way off.
Yeah. I know that's big. I just think that there's problems. There's other problems. That's just a surface. That's a symptom of deeper issues on the surface.
We've had that happen. Not a lot, but I've occasionally gone to grab like a bottle of Advil or something, and it'll be like right before bed, and like I need to take an Advil, my elbow hurts or something, and and they just
227 pills.
real tired too. Like real tired, just getting ready to go to sleep. You just pick that up.
Really don't have time.
Boom, all over the place. And then you got to tell the dogs too, like, no, because you don't want the dogs starting an Advil. You know what I'm saying?
On Advil.
So then there's this production, but thankfully, nobody did it in our house because I know I didn't do it.
Right.
I was told nobody else did it either, so we're good.
Okay.
There's nothing worse when the ghosts come in and just loosen the lids and walk out.
No, I'm
what
thinking
happened? Somebody broke into your house and did that. They were like, "Screw this guy." They just unscrewed a couple lids and walked out.
It's possible.
They're like, he won't need Advil till nighttime, and he'll only have the light on that's above the stove, and they're gonna go.
Yeah, the one thing I want to do is pick up 400 vitamin D's off the floor at 11:47 p.m.
Right, exactly. Feel my pain.
How much vitamin D can the dog eat?
Just leave it.
You Google that. You Google that before picking them up. You'll be fine.
Leave it.
Is vitamin D toxic to dogs? Or just leave this for the morning?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I hope everyone's learned a valuable lesson. Like you said, Scott, we got to try to leave everybody with a 20.
Yeah.
We left them a 50 on that one. You're welcome.
So actually, there's a couple good takeaways.
Yeah.
We kind of agreed to not spend money on stuff you can't afford.
Check.
Right? Sort of. Is there a bit of a consensus there?
I would say so.
And then
Back to that.
put your lids back on. Like
Important.
finish
Absolutely.
what you started. That's like 3/4 of a hand job. Like
It's no good.
just
I'm gonna need you to finish.
just all you had to do was just put the lid back on,
it.
and then everyone would have been fine. Yeah, not like that's the move. I'm not saying that that's the move. I'm not giving
Wow,
any
that's how you finish.
Yeah,
you cup the top, and it's just a twist.
nothing to do with hand job.
Oh, wow, we're teaching Ron's favorite move now. It's right here, ladies. It's right here.
Yeah. What did you call it? They call it the pool stick. Yeah. Okay. We're done here. I think we're done. For those of them that actually made it this far into the episode, they get that little gem at the end.
Yep.
So remember to like, share, subscribe, comment, and
Ring the bell.
there you go.
Drummed it
There you go. He drummed it.
for you.
Good.
Okay. And remember, IamMutant.com, Dusty20, Big Ron 20, and Scott's Patreon for Think Big Bodybuilding Network. And yeah, we appreciate you guys. Remember, it's just bodybuilding.